There is a quiet confusion people often make. They assume every man who walks alone is a Sigma male. But solitude has layers, and not every lone wolf carries the same kind of power. A lone wolf isolates out of necessity, survival, exhaustion, or betrayal. A Sigma male, on the other hand, moves alone by choice, discipline, and design. One is escaping the world. The other is mastering it. One hides to heal. The other withdraws to sharpen. One stands outside because he feels rejected. The Sigma stands outside because he refuses to play by rules that weaken him. Understanding the difference reveals why some men stay lost in their loneliness, while others rise through it. And the deeper you look, the more you realize solitude doesn't define the Sigma. What he builds inside it does. If you're ready to see the true separation between isolation and power, stay until the end. It will change how you view yourself and the men around you. Before we dive in, tell me in the comments, are you more of a lone wolf or something else entirely? And subscribe to Silent Wise for more psychology that hits quietly but deeply. Solitude affects them differently. One feels trapped in it, the other feels empowered by it. There is a moment in a man's life when silence becomes too loud to ignore, when the world steps back just far enough for him to hear the truth he's been avoiding. For some, that silence feels like a cage, a reminder of rejection, of disappointment, of connections that fell apart without warning. It becomes a place he never intended to be, a space where he confronts the weight of his own unmet expectations. In that solitude, he feels the echo of absence rather than the presence of clarity. He paces inside it, searching for answers that never seem to come, hoping someone will knock on the door and pull him out. His isolation is accidental, emotional residue left behind by broken trust and unhealed wounds. That kind of solitude tightens around him, making him believe he is alone because he is unworthy, unseen, or forgotten. He feels trapped because he never chose it. It happened to him before he learned how to navigate it. But for the Sigma male, solitude is something else entirely. Not confinement, but expansion. It is where he breathes deeper, thinks clearer, and becomes sharper. The silence that suffocates others becomes oxygen for him. He doesn't see aloneness as a punishment, but as a resource. A training ground. A sanctuary. A place where the noise of the world fades long enough for him to hear his own voice without distortion. While another man may sit in solitude waiting to be rescued, the Sigma sits in solitude to evolve. He studies himself, studies the world, studies the patterns of people, and emerges with new insight every time. His solitude does not shrink him, it enlarges him. It does not overwhelm him, it strengthens him. It does not trap him, it frees him from the expectations and distractions that weaken others. The difference lies not in how much time they spend alone, but in what the silence becomes within them. In one, solitude builds pressure. In the Sigma, solitude builds power. One waits for someone to end the quiet. The other uses the quiet to end everything that no longer serves him. And that is why. Their mindset in isolation is opposite. One withdraws to escape, the other withdraws to refine. There is a certain look in a man's eyes when he retreats from the world, a look that reveals whether he is running from something or moving toward something greater. One man slips into isolation like someone fleeing a storm, desperate for shelter, using solitude as a hiding place from responsibilities, conflict, or truths he isn't ready to face. His withdrawal is a retreat born from overwhelm, a temporary escape from the noise he cannot manage. In that silence, he tries to numb the intensity rather than understand it. He distracts himself, avoids his thoughts, and waits for time to smooth out what he doesn't have the courage to confront. His isolation becomes a pause button, not a strategy, a fragile barrier between him and the life that intimidates him. He hides because he feels unprepared. He isolates because he feels defeated. And so his solitude becomes stagnant, heavy, and circular. The same thoughts looping with no breakthrough, no clarity, no transformation. But the Sigma male enters isolation with an entirely different intention. His withdrawal is not an escape, it is a sharpening. He walks into solitude the way a craftsman enters his workshop, with purpose, with discipline, with the understanding that refinement requires distance. He doesn't hide from the world, he steps away to observe it more clearly. His silence is not an emotional shutdown. It is a recalibration. In that quiet, he dissects the patterns of his life, his relationships, his ambitions, and the energy he invests. He studies what strengthens him and what weakens him. He trims distractions, cleans mental clutter, and rebuilds his internal architecture. While others crumble in isolation, he evolves. While others lose themselves, he finds the version of himself that the noise of daily life buries. His solitude becomes a forge, burning away what is unnecessary, shaping his next move with precision and preparing him for a comeback no one sees coming. The contrast between them is not found in the silence itself, but in what the silence becomes. One man's isolation is a refuge for avoidance. The Sigma's isolation is a laboratory for transformation. One retreats to stop feeling. The Sigma retreats to start thinking. One comes back unchanged and unsteady. The Sigma returns refined, clearer, stronger, and far more intentional than before. Their independence comes from different sources, one from survival, the other from self-direction. There is a quiet but unmistakable difference between a man who stands alone because the world left him no choice and a man who stands alone because he chose that position deliberately. For some, independence is born out of necessity, a response to circumstances that forced him to fend for himself before he was ready. He learned to rely on no one because relying on others only led to disappointment. His independence is a scar, a shield, a defense mechanism stitched together from nights spent realizing he was the only one who would show up for his needs. He moves through life with a kind of weary resilience, always bracing for the next letdown, always expecting to navigate everything alone. Survival taught him strength, but it also taught him skepticism. He is independent because he had to be, not because he fully understands the power hidden within that solitude. The Sigma male, however, walks a different path. His independence isn't a wound, it's a philosophy. He doesn't distance himself because others failed him. He distances himself because he sees more clearly when he's not entangled in the expectations, emotions, or noise of the crowd. His self-direction comes from a deep recognition that personal freedom is the only space where he can become who he's meant to be. He values autonomy not out of fear, but out of conviction. Every step he takes alone is intentional, anchored in long-term vision rather than short-term survival. He chooses solitude the way an archer chooses stillness before releasing an arrow, not out of panic, but out of precision. His independence empowers him rather than exhausts him, and the contrast between them becomes stark in the way they move through life. One man thinks, "I have no one but myself." The Sigma thinks, "I trust myself the most." One carries independence like a burden he must endure. The Sigma carries it like a compass he follows with clarity. One learned to survive alone. The Sigma learned to become unstoppable alone. Their relationship with society diverges. One avoids it, the other simply doesn't depend on it. There is a profound difference between stepping away from society out of discomfort and stepping outside of it because you no longer require its permission to exist. One man distances himself because the world feels too loud, too demanding, too unpredictable. Social settings overwhelm him. Expectations drain him. Interactions feel like tests he's destined to fail. He stays on the edges because he fears sinking into the center. Avoidance becomes his refuge, a way to protect himself from judgment, from pressure, from being seen too clearly. His distance is a defense, a way to stay safe in a world that once made him feel small. The Sigma male, by contrast, moves beyond society without hostility or fear, simply because he doesn't need it to validate his identity or shape his decisions. He participates when it serves a purpose and disappears the moment it becomes noise. His detachment is not rooted in discomfort, it's rooted in self-sufficiency. He doesn't reject society, he just operates parallel to it, untouched by its trends, hierarchies, and demands. While others chase belonging, he creates his own internal ecosystem where clarity, discipline, and autonomy guide him. Society becomes optional, not oppressive. This difference shapes everything about the way they navigate the world. One withdraws because society feels like a battlefield. The Sigma steps outside because it feels like a distraction. One stays hidden to avoid being overwhelmed. The Sigma stays independent to remain efficient. And while both may appear solitary from the outside, their motivations couldn't be more different. One is escaping the world, the other is outgrowing it. Their emotional discipline is not the same. One struggles to regulate, the other masters his inner world. Some men live at the mercy of their emotions, overwhelmed by waves they never learned to navigate. Their solitude becomes a place to hide from the intensity, a temporary shelter where they can quiet the storm without truly understanding it. They react before thinking, feel before grounding, and often find themselves trapped inside moods they can't explain or escape. Their emotions run hot and fast, pushing them toward withdrawal, not out of wisdom, but out of exhaustion. They don't lack depth, they lack control, and that lack of control shapes every relationship, every decision, every moment of silence they retreat into. The Sigma male, however, operates on an entirely different plane. He does not suppress his emotions. He studies them, dissects them, understands their origins and their patterns. His solitude is not an escape, but a workshop where he refines his emotional clarity. He feels intensely, but he channels those emotions with precision instead of letting them spill into chaos. His calm is not accidental. It's earned through years of introspection, self-awareness, and the quiet discipline of choosing response over reaction. Where others drown in their inner world, he learns to navigate it like a seasoned traveler. This contrast becomes obvious in conflict, relationships, and moments of uncertainty. One becomes unstable, shaken by every shift in tone or circumstance. The Sigma remains steady, reading the moment without becoming consumed by it. One retreats to avoid turmoil. The Sigma retreats to maintain alignment. Their silence may look similar from the outside, but internally it couldn't be more different. One is overwhelmed, the other is in command. And that command is what separates emotional survival from emotional mastery. Their purpose in walking alone is different. One wanders, the other advances. Some men drift into solitude because they don't know where else to go. They walk alone not by choice but by confusion, carrying a vague sense of displacement they can't name. Their path is unmarked, their direction undefined, and every step feels like an attempt to escape rather than a movement toward something meaningful. They wander through life reacting instead of creating, hoping solitude will offer clarity but never truly using it to build anything. Their loneliness becomes a maze, quiet, familiar, but without an exit plan or a destination. The Sigma male moves through solitude with a different intention entirely. His steps are deliberate, calculated, aligned with a vision only he can see. He doesn't walk away from the world, he walks toward a future the world isn't ready to understand. Every period of isolation becomes a phase of construction, sharpening his mind, refining his values, strengthening his instincts. While others drift, he evolves. While others hesitate, he prepares. His solitude isn't a pause, it's momentum disguised as stillness, progress happening behind closed doors. And the difference becomes unmistakable over time. One looks back and sees years lost to aimless isolation. The Sigma looks back and sees milestones, growth, breakthroughs, transformations forged in silence. One feels abandoned by life. The Sigma feels guided by purpose. One is a wanderer, unsure of what he seeks. The Sigma is an architect, shaping exactly what he intends to build. Their paths may look similar to the untrained eye, but only one is moving forward with intention, focus, and the kind of direction that turns solitude into power. Their silence communicates different things. One hides in it, the other commands through it. Silence can be a refuge or a weapon, and the difference lies in who is wielding it. Some men fall into silence because they fear saying the wrong thing, exposing too much, or revealing the uncertainty they carry inside. Their quiet is a shield, built from hesitation and shaped by wounds they never learned to face. It's a silence that trembles, a silence that avoids confrontation, a silence that hopes invisibility will prevent further damage. They hide behind it, hoping the world will pass them by without demanding more than they feel capable of giving. A Sigma male's silence carries an entirely different weight. His quiet is intentional, deliberate, chosen. He speaks rarely because he understands that words are currency, and wasting them devalues their power. When he goes silent, the room shifts. People lean in, wondering what he's thinking, measuring their own behavior, sensing the subtle authority he never has to announce. His silence is not an escape, it's a stance. It communicates confidence without performance, boundaries without explanation, and presence without noise. It demands respect simply by existing. The contrast becomes unmistakable. One man's silence disappears into the background, unnoticed and unchallenging. The Sigma's silence fills the space like gravity, steady, grounding, impossible to ignore. One uses silence to avoid being seen. The Sigma uses silence to make others see themselves more clearly. One quiets himself because he feels small. The Sigma quiets himself because he knows his value doesn't require volume. In a world addicted to noise, his silence becomes the loudest statement in the room. When the difference becomes clear, the entire dynamic shifts. One kind of silence fades. The other reshapes the room. And if you've ever felt the weight of that second kind, the calm, measured, unshakable quiet, you understand why people remember a Sigma long after he's gone. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it barely whispers, and yet everyone hears it. If this message resonated, stay with the path you're walking. There's strength in observing more than you explain, in choosing presence over noise, in letting silence work for you instead of against you. To go deeper into this kind of psychology, subscribe to Silent Wise and join the community that understands the power of staying unseen until the moment truly matters. Before you go, answer this in the comments. Do you use silence as protection or as power, and how has it shaped your relationships?